This video is really for the accidental athletic advisor. You're a school counselor, you're an independent consultant, you're an educator, and you've got a student in front of you who's a varsity athlete, and athletic recruiting possibly could help that student understand and empower them in their college search. So that may not be your area of expertise. What do you do? My name is Dave Morris. My company's College Athletic Advisor, and I'd like to talk to you very briefly about best practices working with varsity athletes. The biggest thing you can understand about working with varsity athletes in high school as they look at their college search is the decision about whether to play a sport in college comes at the end of the recruiting process, not the beginning. The best advice is that you would leverage any of the things you're good at to learn more about different colleges. And certainly, something you're spending as much time on as varsity athletics should be one of the things that you leverage so you can learn what college can look like for you. That's the purpose of the recruiting process. At the end of the process, if playing in college looks like something that you want to do, then you can commit to doing it. You can't really commit to playing in college until at the end of the recruiting process. So the idea that, and I hear this all the time, you really got to be all in on athletic recruiting if you want to do that, is, in my view, not good advice. The best advice is use the fact that you're a varsity athlete to learn more about your options for college, and that makes you a more informed college prospect who can make better choices about their future, right? So, as an advisor, that's what you want for your students, I hope. So, I would encourage them to engage in the recruiting process so they can learn what their options might look like. The biggest thing you can do once you understand that is encourage your advisees to reach out directly to college coaches. There's a tendency, you go to practice every day, so you ask the coach that you go to practice with what they think about college. And those people have varying experiences. And to be fair, I think you're asking the wrong person the right question. The coach at a particular college can definitively tell you, yes, I'm going to recruit you, or no, I won't. Nobody else can do that. No one else knows their roster. No one knows, what they're looking for exactly. People can guess and they have opinions, but when people guess and have opinions, those opinions are only valuable if you can't know the actual answer. In this case, you can. So, encouraging your students to email college coaches directly, go on the internet, go to the college's athletic website, find the email, send a three-sentence email. We'll talk about it a little bit later. And get feedback from college coaches, that's going to do more for their search than any other, ask a local person, ask your high school coach, your club coach. Not that those people aren't wonderful, but somebody else is the expert on whether you can play at college X, not the high school coach, not the club coach. They may represent that they have some expertise in that area. I think you got to ask the people who make the decisions because they're available and you should ask them. And honestly, it's their job to respond. If they're not responding, that is in itself a response. So that's the first thing to understand. The second one is to support students figuring out and talking through kind of the three big challenges that they face, right? One of them is that they need to play on an outside team of some sort. And if they're on an outside team outside of the high school, an AAU basketball team or a club soccer team or whatever, are they playing where the college coaches they want to be evaluated by are there to watch, right? Like, if basketball, are you playing in live period where the college coaches you want to play for are scouting players? It's that simple. The second big question is camp. I think it's really important to understand what you can and can't get from camp. You cannot buy getting recruited, but you can get an experience on a college campus and learn what schools like that school. Not just, if you go to Princeton's camp, you've got a pretty good idea what Ivy League sports look like. Dartmouth's camp isn't going to be, obviously, it's going to be different because it's Dartmouth, but it's going to be pretty similar. And you can say, I think I liked that environment or I didn't, or, whatever. And you don't need to go to every single camp to know that. Uh, going to a camp at a larger school and a smaller school could be a really good way to just understand, your options and what's really there because, everybody's going to see Ohio State or Michigan on TV, right? But you're not necessarily going to see Trinity, Texas or Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology or something. And they're great schools, Colorado Mines, there's a ton of great schools that aren't on TV every day. And sometimes going to camp will make you much more appreciative of the opportunity at those schools. The third thing is, do you need a recruiting service? And if it's an internet service where you get on a database, the answer is no. It's that simple. You don't need that. You may want uh, professional expert support, and I think that's something, if you're an accidental advisor, can you get that kid, connected to college coaches? Can they write the emails? Do they understand where they want to send them? And are they getting feedback? Um, you have to assess that. And if you think you need to bring somebody in to collaborate, you can certainly contact me, but there are options out there. But I would really avoid any business where they have like an email system or a database, or you upload your picture. Um, Frankly, college coaches don't want that. They want direct contact from students using their authentic emails and authentic interest. And if you're advising a student, you should explain that to them. So those are kind of the big challenges you need to help them work through. And then the last piece is, so how do you reach out to these college coaches? And the answer is, email's really the best. If a kid's like living on social media, you should use whatever you're doing, right? The reason you're looking at being a recruited athlete is because you're playing sports a lot, right? So if you're on social media a lot, sure, use your social media to reach out to coaches, but understand that not every coach has that particular social media app. Social media apps can be operated by various people who are not the person who's going to do the recruiting. There's just a lot of issues there. Email the coach. Every college coach has email. If a college coach has a supervisor, that supervisor emails them. They don't, Twitter DM them or whatever. So use email. There's on our website, it's a 3 sentence email template. When you email a coach for the first time, the question the coach is trying to answer is, can you help us be a successful program? That's it. So, you could be someone who saves babies from burning buildings, but if you're not fast enough to help them score at the conference track meet, you're going to be a great student, but you're not really going to help the track team, right? They need a kid who is outstanding character and fast enough to score a conference. Like, they need both those things. So that's what they're looking for. Your subject line has to grab their attention. It should include some fact about you that makes the coach want to click on it. It also must include your GPA and your graduation year, because coaches need that information up front. They really appreciate it. So, interesting fact, GPA, grad year. That's your subject line. 3 sentences expressing interest, asking the coach, do you feel like I might be a fit? And then ask a good question. Nobody wants a pick me email. Make an ask. What do you look for in a center midfielder or a left tackle or a point guard or whatever it is, right? Um, any kind of question like that. What are things that you see high school students do that predict success as a college athlete? Any kind of question. You're a great advisor. You help kids write essays. You do all kinds of stuff. Help the student think of a really good question to ask a coach. Coaches are educators. They want to answer good questions. Start that conversation. In most sports, a student also needs video. They need a highlight reel. It's 2026 when I'm filming this, and honestly, if it didn't get video, if there's no video of it, it didn't really happen, right? So you need about a 1 minute highlight reel of your best clips. When the coach hits play, they should see you play, and they should see the best thing you've ever done. Second clip is the second best thing, etc. 7, 8 clips get to about a minute. Anything after a minute, honestly, it's for grandma. College coaches, after 3 or 4 clips, probably have already decided whether they need to engage with you or not. So don't get past a minute, and definitely don't save a clip for the end. Get it up front so you know the coach saw it. If you upload your video clips to YouTube, you can see how long coaches are engaged with video. And if you look at that data, you'll understand that everything after about 20, 30 seconds is extra. You want to leave it, you need a little extra so that they know you don't only have 2 or 3 good clips. But realistically, as you get near a minute, the decision's already been made. If you're in a sport where there's an objective data point like track or swimming where you have a time, then include a link to your profile, on SwimCloud or athletic.net or Tugger if you're a golfer, so that coaches can see the objective data. Because for those coaches, that's going to be way more important than video. So If you can help students do that, and then the third thing I think for most students is to have a resume. There's a template on my website. I think it's much easier to use that template than to invent your own or sort of tell a student to sort of free form create a resume. My research is that college coaches do spend a bit more time with resumes that have a picture of a face on them. So that's in the resume template, but that's up to you. But really, resume, video, 3 sentence email. You can send a schedule, something like that. Here's where I'm going to be. I hope you get to see me play, something like that. And when you send that email, don't send it just once. Send it, wait a week, send it again. Coaches are busy. They do miss stuff. Give them a second chance. And, if as you get feedback, you start to realize, okay, these are the types of schools that are interested in me, and these are the types of schools that aren't. So now you can start to make decisions about where you're going to go to camp or where you're going to visit and start to sort of progress your search. Because if there's mutual interest, coaches are going to look at your transcript, they're going to take it to admissions, and you're going to know you're a candidate for admission before your peers. So it's an incredible asset. It can make everybody's life easier, and it empowers the student to really make better decisions with more information.